All right, so I'm going to be talking about what I think regular people, not just specialists, can do to help with this imminent danger of like AI. And in order to talk about that first, to make it convincing, I have to convince you that AI might be really dangerous. So here are four different, the spectrum of fears of AI that Professor Hintz at Michigan State came up with. And I hope to convince you that the last one, the sort of robot apocalypse, is a dangerous one. Now, Ida Nodak, in 1934, first proposed nuclear fission, that might be a thing. 5 years later, Enrico Fermi, the famous physicist, expressed 90% confidence that it would not be possible to use uranium to sustain a fission chain reaction. And uranium was pretty much the only candidate at the time. 3 years after that, the first self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction built by people on the planet was done in Enrico Fermi's lab. So he was not such a great judge of this kind of technology. And just 2.5 years after that, it was used to blow up cities. Right? So technology can really take off very surprisingly, shockingly quickly. So here's an early airplane, right? And it looks kind of harmless, right? You wouldn't think you could bomb people with some piece of crap like that. Yeah. And in 1901, 2 years before he helped build the first heavier-than-air flyer, Wilbur Wright told his brother that powered flight was 50 years away. This IBM 709, it does not look like an existential threat. It does not look like it's going to jump up and eat you, right? At worst, it might say things that make you mad or make other people hurt you or something. All right, but people even at the time recognized that really smart computers could be quite dangerous if they were smarter than people. Yeah, like, your HAL 9000, your room-sized HAL 9000 unit, it might go crazy and lock you out of the pod bay, right? Okay. But we're on an evolutionary trend of computing power. And here it is plotted on a log scale. And this is trying to put both computers and biological organisms on the same sort of scale. And we're approaching the crunch power of, people, basically. So, and people have been busy working out the wiring diagram of brains. This is Ramon y Cajal from the 50s. And we've been working steadily, taking insights from neuroscience and trying to figure out like the secret sauces that we're missing for building really smart computers. And we don't quite have it all worked out yet, but we ourselves are very powerful computers made out, like dangerous ones, made out of like salt and snot, basically, salt water and snot. And for all we know, somebody's figured out the trick for doing it and is right now busy building the first artificial general intelligence. Right? We have no reason, except for confidence, that we're smart, that we don't think somebody else smart has come up with it. So, okay, this may sound like, the kind of Cold War paranoia, right? But, there's no reason to think that they'd be that dangerous in that particular fashion. But if we knew that an alien spaceship was on its way, would arrive in 30 years, you can bet your sweet patootie we'd start preparing now. We wouldn't be like shrugging and saying, oh, it'll be a while, why don't we just wait? Right? We would be doing whatever we can to figure it out, right? So, we'd be trying to figure out when these things are built, how can we make sure that they're not killer robot armies that are going to kill us, right? Okay, so what can non-specialists do? What can regular non-computer people do? Well, one thing is to recognize when we haven't been prepared, right? Whenever somebody says the computer won't, when you call a customer support line and somebody says, I can't do that, I wish I could, but the computer won't let me, we've not only failed as computer professionals, but we are hastening the eschaton time. We are paving the way for robot masters to kill us all. So here's what regular people can do. We should always make sure that people are in charge. Computers should suggest policy, but they should never be in a position to enforce policy over a human. Humans should always be able to override them. Right? Computers should not be the masters. We should not be setting up a society where we build these great big computers where people are cogs in their machines. It should be quite vice versa. And not only will this help prevent a robot apocalypse, but I think it also makes good business sense to put frontline people, anybody dealing with a computer, put them in charge.
All right. That's great. Thanks very much, Barak.